Commander Jake. Morrison pressed his face against the cold metal of the viewing window and watched the massive space station grow larger with each passing minute. The Galactic Senate Station was bigger than anything humans had ever built, and it floated in space like a giant silver city with lights twinkling across its surface like stars. His ship, the Horizon's Edge, was small compared to the alien vessels that moved around the station like metal. Fish swimming in an endless ocean. Jake had dreamed of this moment since he was a child, reading stories about space travel and meeting aliens. Now, at 35 years old, he was finally here representing all of humanity in their bid to join the galactic community. The journey from Earth had taken 6 months, even with their fastest ships, and every day Jake had wondered what the aliens would think of humans when they finally met face to face. Ambassador Lisa Carter walked up beside him carrying a thick folder of documents. She was a smart woman in her 50s with gray hair and tired eyes, who had spent the last 20 years preparing for this moment. The folder contained everything about humanity that the aliens might want to know, including their history, science, technology, and culture. Lisa had written most of it herself, working day and night to make humans look peaceful and ready to join the galactic family. "Are you nervous?" Jake asked her as they watched alien ships that looked like nothing from Earth fly past their window. Lisa smiled, but Jake could see worry in her eyes. "We have waited 300 years for this day, ever since we first detected alien signals from space." "How could I not be nervous? The message from the Galactic Senate had arrived 50 years ago, and it was the first time aliens had ever spoken directly to humans. Before that, humans had only picked up radio signals and strange energy readings that proved other life existed in the galaxy. The message was simple and formal. It said that humanity could apply for membership in the Galactic Senate, and that their application would be reviewed when they were ready to present themselves. 50 years of preparation had led to this moment. Earth had built its first real spaceship capable of traveling between stars. They had learned alien languages from the signals they intercepted. They had studied alien technology and tried to understand how galactic society worked. Most importantly, they had worked hard to appear peaceful and civilized to beings who had been traveling the stars for thousands of years. Admiral Ben Rodriguez joined them at the window. He was a big man with dark skin and gray hair who had spent his whole life in Earth's military. Unlike Lisa and Jake, he did not look excited about meeting aliens. His job was to protect the human delegation if something went wrong, but he also knew that his presence might make humans look too warlike to the peaceful galactic community. "The docking procedures are starting," Ben said in his deep voice. "They want us to follow their lead ship to a special bay where we will meet their security teams." Jake watched as a sleek alien vessel appeared next to their ship. It was beautiful, in a way that human ships were not, with smooth curves and no visible weapons or armor. The aliens had sent detailed instructions about how the meeting would work, and every detail was designed to show respect and peaceful intentions from both sides. The 3 humans made their way to the docking bay, where the rest of the human delegation waited. There were 12 humans total, including scientists, diplomats, and military officers. Each person had been chosen carefully to represent the best of humanity and show that humans were ready to be responsible. Members of Galactic Society. Dr. Helen Baker was there with her collection of medical equipment and scientific data. She was a kind woman who had spent her life helping people, and her job was to show that humans cared about healing and knowledge rather than war and conquest. Next to her stood Captain Ryan Mitchell, a young ship pilot who would demonstrate human space travel abilities if needed. The airlock opened with a soft hiss, and the humans got their first look at real aliens. The beings who greeted them were tall and thin, with blue skin and large eyes that seemed to glow in the artificial light. They wore flowing robes that covered most of their bodies, and they moved with a grace that made them seem like they were floating rather than walking. "Welcome, humans," said their leader in perfect English. "I am Ambassador Thelanara of the Zephyrian delegation. Please follow me to the Senate chamber where your fate will be decided." The word fate made Jake feel cold inside. He had expected words like future or destiny, but fate sounded like something bad was going to happen. Lisa must have noticed it too because she squeezed the folder tighter in her hands as they walked through corridors filled with aliens from dozens of different species. The Senate chamber was enormous with curved walls that stretched up so high Jake could not see the ceiling. Thousands of alien beings sat in rows of seats that formed circles around a central platform where the humans would make their presentation. Jake had never seen so many different types of life in one place, and he felt very small as they walked to their assigned spot. Senator Vexhai stood up from a chair that looked like it was made of crystal. He was clearly very old, even by alien standards, and his voice echoed through the chamber when he spoke. "We gather today not to welcome a new member, but to address a clear and present danger to galactic stability. The species known as humans represents an unprecedented threat to the peace we have maintained for millennia." Lisa dropped her folder and papers scattered across the floor. Jake felt his heart stop beating for a moment as the words sank in. They had come here hoping to join the galactic community, but instead they were being accused of being dangerous. Admiral Ben stepped forward, ready to defend his people, but Jake put a hand on his arm to stop him. "For 300 years these humans have spread across 73 star systems," continued Senator Vexhai. "They have built weapons and armies on every world they touch. They have refused to follow galactic law or ask permission before claiming new territory. No species in our history has expanded so quickly or with such obvious warlike intentions." The chamber filled with voices as thousands of aliens began talking at once. Some sounded scared while others sounded angry, but none of them sounded friendly toward the human delegation. Jake looked around the room and saw fear in alien faces that looked nothing like human faces but somehow expressed the same basic emotion. Ambassador Thelanara stood up and her voice was shaking when she spoke. "In our observations of human space, we have seen constant military buildup and aggressive expansion. Every human colony is heavily armed and ready for war. This is not the behavior of a peaceful species seeking friendship." Dr. Helen tried to speak about human medicine and science, but her words were lost in the noise of alien voices. The evidence against humanity was displayed on giant screens around the chamber, showing human warships and military bases and weapons factories. It all looked very frightening when presented this way, even though Jake knew that humans had built these things to protect themselves in an unknown galaxy. The worst moment came when the aliens played recordings from Earth's early space age. The recordings showed nuclear weapons and global wars and violence that made humans look like savage beasts. Jake wanted to explain that humans had learned from their mistakes and become better, but no one was listening to explanations. "This species cannot be trusted," declared a creature that looked like a living tree. "They must be contained before they destroy everything we have built." The vote happened quickly, and the result was crushing. Not only were humans denied membership in the Galactic Senate, but they were officially declared a Class 5 containment species. Jake did not know exactly what that meant, but the fear in alien faces told him it was very bad. As the human delegation was escorted back to their ship, Jake realized that everything had gone wrong. They had come seeking friendship, but found only fear and suspicion. Humanity was now alone in a galaxy that saw them as a threat to be stopped rather than friends to be welcomed. Captain Ryan Mitchell was drinking his morning coffee when the alarm started screaming through the halls of the UES Defiant. He dropped the hot cup and ran to the bridge where his crew was already working at their stations with worried looks on their faces. Through the main window he could see space filled with alien ships that had appeared overnight like a swarm of metal insects surrounding their colony. "Report," Ryan said as he sat down in the captain's chair and tried to make sense of what he was seeing. Lieutenant Amy Foster turned around from her sensor station with fear in her young eyes. "Captain, we are reading over 300 alien vessels taking positions around New Texas colony. They have us completely surrounded, and similar reports are coming in from all 17 human colonies." Ryan felt his stomach drop as he realized what was happening. It had been 6 months since the human delegation returned from the Galactic Senate with news of humanity's rejection and classification as a containment species. Earth's leaders had hoped the aliens would be satisfied with just denying membership, but clearly they had bigger plans. The alien ships were arranged in perfect formation around every human world like a giant net designed to trap fish. Some of the vessels were massive battleships the size of cities, while others were smaller, but still much larger than anything humans had built. They all had one thing in common, which was that their weapons were pointed toward human colonies and bases. "Are they trying to talk to us?" Ryan asked his communications officer. "Yes, sir, we are receiving a message on all frequencies. It's the same message being sent to every human colony at the same time." The main screen flickered and showed the face of an alien that Ryan recognized from the Senate proceedings. It was Ambassador Thelanara of the Zephyrian delegation, and she looked even more nervous than she had during the trial. Her blue skin seemed pale, and her large eyes kept looking away from the camera as if she was afraid to make direct contact. "Attention, human settlements," she said in her musical voice. "By order of the Galactic Senate, all human expansion and movement beyond your current territories is hereby forbidden. You will remain within your designated boundaries and submit to regular inspections to ensure compliance with containment protocols. Any attempt to leave your assigned areas will be met with immediate military action." The message ended and the screen went black, leaving Ryan and his crew staring at empty space. The meaning was clear even though the words had been polite. Humanity was now prisoners in their own colonies, with alien guards watching their every move. Ryan opened a communication channel to Earth and waited for the signal to travel across the vast distance between stars. When President John Martinez appeared on the screen, his face looked tired and old, as if he had aged 10 years in the past 6 months. "We have been expecting this," the president said before Ryan could speak. "Every human colony is reporting the same situation. They have us trapped and outnumbered by at least 20 to 1. The question now is what we do about it." On Earth, the Global Defense Council had been meeting continuously since the blockade began. Secretary of Defense Maria Santos delivered reports that painted a grim picture of humanity's situation. The alien forces had superior technology and numbers that made conventional resistance seem impossible. Every simulation and war game showed the same result, which was total human defeat in any direct confrontation, but Admiral Paul Stevens had been preparing for this possibility since the day humans first detected alien signals. He was an old soldier who had spent 40 years thinking about how to protect humanity from threats they did not yet understand. While diplomats had been preparing for peaceful contact, Admiral Stevens had been building weapons and making plans for war. Project Prometheus was never just about exploration, he told the Emergency Council meeting. "We knew there was a chance that contact with aliens would not go well. That is why we built what we built and hid what we hid." Dr. Karen Williams was the head of Earth's most secret research division, and she had spent 20 years working on technologies that most people did not know existed. She had always known that humans might need to fight for their survival in a galaxy full of unknown dangers. The alien blockade proved that her paranoia had been justified. "We have been building ships and weapons in hidden locations throughout human space," she explained to the shocked council members. 200 vessels equipped with experimental technology that the aliens have never seen. They think they know everything about human capabilities, but they are wrong. The first test of human resistance came at the Centauri system, where Commander Steve Jackson had been ordered to test alien responses to breakout attempts. His task force consisted of only 3 ships, but they were equipped with technology that had never been used in actual combat. Steve was nervous but also excited to finally use the weapons his people had been building in secret. The alien blockade fleet at Centauri consisted of 12 ships arranged in a standard patrol formation. They had been watching the human colony for weeks without incident, and their crews had grown comfortable with the routine of containment duty. When human ships approached the blockade line, the aliens moved to intercept with casual confidence. Captain Linda Chang was piloting the experimental stealth frigate Phoenix, which had been built using theories about space-time manipulation that most humans did not understand. Her ship could bend light around itself and move through space in ways that seemed to violate the laws of physics. When the alien sensors lost track of her vessel, their commanders assumed it was a technical malfunction. The Phoenix attacked without warning using weapons that the aliens had never encountered before. Instead of energy beams or projectiles, the human ship fired concentrated gravity waves that crushed alien hulls like empty cans. The alien shields, which had protected their ships for centuries, were useless against attacks that came from a completely different direction. Commander Jackson led the other two human ships in a direct assault while the aliens were confused by the Phoenix's attack. The human vessels moved with speed and precision that surprised the alien crews, who had grown used to peaceful patrols rather than actual combat. Within minutes, 2 alien ships were destroyed, and 3 others were badly damaged. The remaining alien vessels tried to call for reinforcements, but found their communications being jammed by human technology they did not know existed. Captain Chang used the Phoenix to attack their command ship, while Jackson's forces picked off the smaller vessels one by one. The battle lasted 4 hours, and when it ended, 12 alien ships had been destroyed or disabled while humans had lost only one vessel. The survivors fled back to the main alien fleet carrying reports that would shock the galactic community. The species they had thought was contained and helpless had just demonstrated military capabilities that far exceeded anything in their intelligence files. More importantly, the humans had fought with a level of tactical skill and ruthless efficiency that peaceful alien crews could not match. News of the Centauri engagement spread through the alien blockade fleets like a virus. Crews who had signed up for what they thought would be easy containment duty suddenly realized they might be facing an actual war against an enemy that knew how to fight. Many of the alien species had not seen real combat for hundreds or thousands of years, and the idea of facing humans in battle filled them with fear. Senator Vexai received the battle reports in his crystal chamber on the Senate station and felt something he had not experienced in his long life. For the first time since the containment order was issued, he wondered if the Galactic Senate had made a terrible mistake. The humans had not just resisted the blockade, they had destroyed it with weapons and tactics that no one had predicted. The alien crews at other human colonies began to change their behavior after hearing about Centauri. Instead of maintaining loose patrol patterns, they pulled their ships into tight defensive formations and activated all their defensive systems. The easy confidence of the first weeks was replaced by nervous tension as alien commanders realized they were not dealing with helpless prisoners. Captain Ryan Mitchell watched the alien fleet around New Texas colony as their formation shifted from offensive to defensive positioning. The change was obvious even to someone without military training, and it told him that humanity's response at Centauri had sent a clear message to their captors. The aliens were no longer sure they could control humanity through intimidation alone. The blockade was still in place and humans were still trapped within their colonies, but something fundamental had changed. The aliens now knew that containing humanity would require actual fighting rather than just showing up with big ships. More importantly, they had learned that humans possessed both the weapons and the will to make that fighting very expensive for anyone who tried to cage them. Ryan opened a channel to Earth and saw that President Martinez looked different than he had just days before. The tired old man had been replaced by someone who looked ready to fight for his people's freedom. The news from Centauri had reached every human colony, and the message was clear. Humanity would not go quietly into the cage the aliens had built for them. Governor Pete Collins stood on the observation deck of New Eden Colony and watched as construction crews worked around the clock to transform their peaceful settlement into something very different. What had been farms and research stations just weeks ago were now becoming weapons factories and military bunkers. The change was happening so fast that Pete sometimes forgot he was looking at the same place, where families had been raising children and growing food. The message from Earth had been simple and direct. All human colonies were to activate emergency protocols that had been built into their infrastructure from the very beginning. Pete had always known the protocols existed, but he had hoped they would never be needed. Now, as alien ships watched from space, he was grateful that Earth's planners had been so paranoid about humanity's safety in an unknown galaxy. "Sir, the conversion is ahead of schedule," reported his chief engineer, Captain Andy Baker, who had once been a simple cargo hauler before the crisis began. "The mining equipment has been modified into kinetic weapons, and the transport ships are being fitted with military-grade systems. We will be ready for combat operations within 72 hours. Pete nodded as he watched civilian workers who had become soldiers overnight. These were people who had come to New Eden to build new lives in space, but now they were preparing to fight for the right to exist. The transformation reminded Pete of stories his grandfather had told about how ordinary people became warriors when their homes were threatened. Every human colony was going through the same process, and the speed of the change shocked even the humans who had planned for it. Mining platforms revealed hidden weapon systems that could punch holes through asteroid belts. Agricultural stations converted their genetic laboratories into facilities for producing military supplies. Even the smallest outposts activated defensive networks that had been disguised as communication arrays. Captain Linda Chang was leading a patrol near the outer edge of human space when her sensors detected movement in the asteroid field. Her ship, the Phoenix, had become famous throughout human space after the victory at Centauri, and now every human crew wanted to serve under her command. She had proven that humans could not only fight aliens but beat them using superior tactics and secret technology. "We have multiple contacts moving through the asteroids," reported her sensor officer, Lieutenant Dave Miller. "Configuration suggests this is a scouting force trying to gather intelligence on our defensive preparations." Linda smiled as she realized the aliens were making the same mistake that had cost them at Centauri. They assumed that human tactics would be similar to what other species used, and they were completely wrong. Humans had learned to fight through thousands of years of constant warfare on Earth, and those lessons had been adapted for use in space. "Take us into the field, but keep us hidden behind the larger rocks," Linda ordered. "Let them come to us, and then we will show them what happens when you spy on humans." The alien scouting force consisted of 6 small ships that moved carefully through the asteroid field, using sensors to map human defenses. Their crews were experienced intelligence gatherers who had performed similar missions against dozens of other species over the centuries. None of those species had ever detected the scouts or interfered with their work. The Phoenix waited in silence as the alien ships moved closer to the human positions. Linda had learned to be patient during her years of military training, and she knew that the best time to strike was when the enemy felt safe and confident. The aliens were focused on their scanning equipment and not watching for threats that might be hiding nearby. When the attack came, it was swift and brutal. The Phoenix emerged from behind a large asteroid and fired its gravity weapons at point-blank range. The first alien ship was crushed instantly, while the second was torn apart by forces that twisted its hull into impossible shapes. The remaining 4 ships tried to flee but found their escape routes blocked by other human vessels that had been waiting in ambush. The battle lasted less than 10 minutes, and when it ended, all 6 alien scouts had been destroyed. More importantly, the humans had captured intact pieces of alien technology that their scientists could study and reverse engineer. Every fight was making humanity stronger while their enemies learned nothing except that fighting humans was dangerous and expensive. Admiral John Watanabe commanded the mining platform Ironhammer, which had been built to extract valuable metals from asteroid fields. The platform looked like a peaceful industrial facility, but that appearance was carefully designed to fool anyone who might be watching. Hidden within the mining equipment were weapons powerful enough to destroy entire fleets of enemy ships. When the alien task force arrived to capture the resource-rich Haven system, they saw what looked like an easy target. The Ironhammer appeared to be a civilian facility with minimal defenses and a crew of miners who would surrender rather than fight. The alien commander ordered his ships to move into optimal position for boarding operations without realizing he was flying into a trap. Admiral Watanabe waited until the enemy vessels were exactly where he wanted them before revealing the platform's true nature. The mining lasers that were designed to cut through solid rock carved through alien hulls like they were made of paper. The gravity manipulators that moved asteroids crushed enemy ships with forces that no armor could resist. Target their command ship first, Watanabe ordered his crew as alien vessels tried, desperately to escape the killing field they had flown into. Once their coordination breaks down, the rest will be easy targets, the alien fleet commander watched in horror as his ships were destroyed one by weapons he had never seen before. His intelligence reports had described the human facility as a simple mining operation, but the reality was a military installation disguised as civilian infrastructure. By the time he realized the truth, it was too late to save his force. The aliens retreated from Haven System, but the damage had been done. Word spread through their fleets that there were no soft targets in human space, and that any attack would be met with sophisticated defenses operated by crews who knew how to fight. The psychological impact was even greater than the military losses because alien forces began to doubt their ability to contain humanity. Dr. Gary Turner was Earth's leading expert on alien psychology, and his reports to military command painted a disturbing picture of their enemy's mindset. The aliens had spent so many centuries avoiding conflict that they had forgotten how to truly fight. Their crews were trained for ceremonial battles and police actions against species that submitted quickly to superior firepower. They have never faced an enemy that fights back effectively, Turner explained during a strategy briefing. Their entire military doctrine is based on overwhelming force against opponents who surrender when faced with superior numbers. They do not know how to handle sustained resistance from a species that refuses to give up. Human military doctrine had been refined through countless wars on Earth and then adapted for the unique challenges of space combat. Where alien forces relied on massive ships and advanced technology, humans used speed, deception, and tactical flexibility. Every human commander had studied the great military leaders of Earth's history and learned lessons that peaceful aliens could not understand. General Nancy Parker was coordinating the defense of the outer colonies from her command center on Mars. She had spent 30 years in Earth's military and understood that the key to victory was not just winning battles, but destroying the enemy's will to fight. Her strategy involved making every alien attack so costly that their commanders would eventually refuse to continue. "We are not trying to match their numbers or technology," she explained to her staff officers. "We are trying to make them afraid to fight us. Every engagement must cost them more than they can afford to lose, and every victory must come at a price. That makes the next attack seem impossible." The human strategy was working better than anyone had dared to hope. Alien commanders who had expected easy containment duty were instead facing casualties and equipment losses that their superiors found difficult to accept. The political pressure on alien leaders was growing as families demanded to know why their loved ones were dying to cage a species that just wanted to be left alone. Captain Tony Lewis commanded the orbital defense grid around Earth, and his job was to prepare for the ultimate test of human military power. Intelligence reports suggested that the aliens were planning a massive assault designed to end human resistance once and for all. The attack would involve thousands of ships and represent the combined military might of dozens of alien species. "They are going to throw everything they have at us," Lewis told his senior officers during their daily briefing. "This will not be like the small engagements we have been fighting. This will be total war with the survival of our species at stake." Earth's defenses had been built with exactly this scenario in mind. The planet was protected by weapon systems hidden in asteroid space stations, disguised as research facilities and mobile platforms that could appear anywhere in the solar system within hours. More importantly, Earth's defenders were humans who would fight to the death rather than surrender their homeworld to alien occupation. The transformation of human space from peaceful colonies to military strongholds was now complete. Senator Vexhai looked around the emergency session chamber and saw fear in the faces of beings from over 2,000 different worlds. The Galactic Senate had been meeting for 6 days straight trying to find a solution to what they now called the human problem. Every report from the containment fleets brought news of more losses and more evidence that their strategy was failing badly. "The casualties are becoming unacceptable," declared Ambassador Corthan of the Regelian Commerce Guild. "We have lost over 400 ships and thousands of crew members trying to contain a species that refuses to stay contained. My people are demanding answers that I cannot provide. The debate had been going in circles for days, with some senators calling for increased military pressure while others wanted to try diplomatic solutions. But everyone in the chamber knew that neither option would work against humans who had proven they could not be intimidated or reasoned with. The only remaining choice was one that most species had never considered in their long, peaceful history. Admiral Kethfer of the ancient Voidwalker Empire stood up slowly from his floating meditation chair. He was older than most civilizations and had seen the rise and fall of countless species across the galaxy. His voice carried the weight of eons when he spoke, and even the most arrogant senators listened respectfully to his words. "There is only one solution that will guarantee galactic security," he said in a voice that seemed to echo from the depths of space itself. "The human species must be completely eliminated before they spread their violence throughout the galaxy. Total extermination is our only option." The chamber fell silent as the implications of his words sank in. Most senators had never heard anyone speak of genocide so casually, and the idea terrified them almost as much as the humans themselves. But Admiral Kethfer continued speaking as if he was discussing weather conditions rather than the murder of an entire species. "I have seen species like this before in the distant past," he explained. "They cannot be contained or controlled or reasoned with. They exist only to consume and destroy everything around them. The longer we wait, the stronger they become, and the more difficult it will be to stop them." The vote took place over 3 days, with senators returning to their homeworlds to consult with their governments before making such a momentous decision. The final tally was closer than many had expected, but the outcome was inevitable. Operation Final Protocol was approved by a margin of 67 votes out of nearly 3,000 cast. Admiral Kethfer was given command of the extinction fleet, and the resources of over 100 species were placed at his disposal. 5,000 ships representing the combined military might of galactic civilization gathered in empty space to prepare for humanity's final judgment. It was the largest military force ever assembled in the galaxy's recorded history. On Earth, President John Martinez stood before the emergency session of the Global Assembly and delivered what many believed would be humanity's final address. The detection systems had picked up the massive alien fleet as it moved toward human space, and everyone knew what it meant. The aliens had decided that containment was not enough and that humans had to be destroyed completely. "We stand at the end of all things, but we stand together," Martinez said to the billions of people watching around the world. "If this is our end, then let it be one worthy of the species that conquered a planet before reaching for the stars. We will not go quietly into the darkness they have planned for us." The preparations for Earth's defense involved every human on the planet and beyond. Orbital platforms activated weapon systems that had been hidden for decades, while ground installations emerged from underground bunkers where they had waited for this exact moment. Even civilian areas were converted into military strongholds as humanity prepared for the ultimate test of their survival. Colonel Tony Lewis watched from his command post as sensors registered the approaching armada of alien ships. The numbers were so large that his computers had trouble displaying them all, and he knew that conventional tactics would be useless against such overwhelming force. But humanity had advantages that their enemies did not understand, and secrets that would soon be revealed. Dr. Susan Adams worked frantically in the deepest bunkers beneath the Pentagon, activating systems that most people did not know existed. Project Pandora had been humanity's most classified program and represented preparation for the worst-case scenario that was now happening. If humans were going to be destroyed, they would ensure the galaxy remembered the lesson forever. The battle began in the outer solar system, where Captain Derek Johnson led a desperate delaying action with what remained of humanity's visible fleet. His ships were outnumbered by more than 50 to 1, but they fought with the fury of people defending their last hope. Every human vessel used tactics that confused and frustrated alien commanders who expected conventional military responses. Derek's flagship, the Resolute, had been built as an exploration vessel, but like all human ships, it had hidden capabilities that emerged during combat. When alien boarding parties tried to capture the ship, they found corridors filled with automated defenses and human crew members who fought like demons rather than surrender. The cost of taking each human ship was so high that alien commanders began to wonder if the victory was worth the price. But numbers eventually told their story, and one by one the human ships fell to the massive alien assault. Derek watched his fleet disappear from the tactical display as heroic crews died buying time for Earth's final preparations. When the Resolute finally succumbed to enemy fire, Derek activated the ship's self-destruct system rather than let it be captured by the aliens who had come to murder his species. The alien fleet pressed toward Earth, confident that the worst resistance was behind them. Admiral Kethver studied the tactical reports and felt satisfied that the operation was proceeding according to plan. The human species would be extinct within hours and the galaxy would finally be safe from their violent influence. Lieutenant Colonel Beth Moore commanded. Earth's primary defensive grid from her bunker deep inside Luna, the moon had been converted into a massive weapon platform over the course of several decades, and its true purpose was hidden beneath mining operations and research facilities. When the alien fleet entered optimal range, Beth activated systems that transformed Earth's companion into an engine of destruction. The space around Earth became a killing field as humanity revealed defensive preparations that had taken centuries to complete. Mars opened up with weapons built into its terraforming stations, while the asteroid belt revealed hidden platforms that had been disguised as mining operations. Every piece of space debris and every civilian station suddenly became part of an integrated defense network. The aliens had expected resistance, but nothing on the scale of what they encountered. Earth's defenders had turned the entire inner solar system into a fortress designed to destroy anyone who threatened humanity's homeworld. Weapons that had never been tested in combat proved their worth as alien ships died by the hundreds in the crossfire of humanity's final stand. Admiral Kethver watched his casualties mount and felt something he had not experienced in millennia. Fear crept into his ancient mind as he realized that humans had been preparing for this moment far longer than anyone had suspected. The species that was supposed to be primitive and contained had somehow built defenses that challenged even his vast fleet, but even Earth's incredible defenses could not hold against such overwhelming numbers forever. As more alien ships pushed through the defensive perimeter, it became clear that humanity's resistance was doomed. The end was approaching despite the heroic efforts of Earth's defenders, and soon the human species would be nothing more than a cautionary tale told by survivors. Dr. Adams watched the tactical display from her bunker and saw that the moment had arrived. With tears in her eyes, she entered the final activation codes for Project Pandora and whispered a prayer for forgiveness. What she was about to unleash would change the galaxy forever and prove that humanity had been preparing for this betrayal longer than anyone could have imagined. The transmission that went out across the galaxy on all frequencies would haunt alien nightmares for generations to come. It showed the apparent destruction of Earth as massive explosions consumed the planet and its defending fleets. But hidden in the signal was a message that would terrify every species that had voted for human extinction. "You wanted to see what humanity was capable of," said a voice that belonged to no one the aliens recognized. "You declared us a threat and tried to destroy us. Now, the entire galaxy will learn why that was the biggest mistake in its history. This is not our end. This is your beginning." The Galactic Senate Station received the final transmission from the extinction fleet 18 hours after Earth's apparent destruction. Admiral Kethver stood in his command chamber surrounded by the wreckage of what had been the galaxy's most powerful military force and tried to understand what had happened to his ships and crews. The battle should have been a simple extermination, but instead it had become a nightmare that defied explanation. "Sir, we are receiving another transmission," reported his communications officer in a voice that shook with terror. "It is coming from Earth, but our sensors show the planet was destroyed." The main screen flickered to life and showed a face that every alien in the galaxy now recognized. President John Martinez appeared to be standing in the Oval Office on Earth, which was Impossible since that planet had been reduced to burning debris hours earlier. Behind him, through the window, alien viewers could see the familiar blue marble of humanity's homeworld spinning peacefully in space. "Citizens of the galaxy," Martinez began in a voice that was calm and confident despite everything that had happened. "You declared humanity a threat to galactic peace, and you were absolutely right. But you made one crucial mistake in your calculations. You assumed that we would fight fair," the transmission continued as Martinez explained the truth that would reshape galactic civilization forever. For 50 years, while applying for Senate membership, humanity had been building a shadow civilization designed specifically for this moment. The Earth that had been destroyed was nothing more than an elaborate holographic projection hiding the real planet behind layers of advanced technology. Captain Joe Carter commanded the real human battle fleet as it emerged from the darkness beyond the galactic rim. 2,000 ships that dwarfed anything the aliens had ever seen appeared on sensors across known space like ghosts materializing from the void. These were not converted civilian vessels or hastily modified cargo haulers, but purpose-built engines of war that incorporated the best of human engineering and captured alien technology. "All stations report ready for Operation Payback," Carter announced to his fleet commanders. "Target priority is enemy command and control systems. We want them confused and helpless before we begin the real demonstration." The ships under Carter's command had been built in secret shipyards hidden in the space between galaxies where no alien sensor could detect them. Each vessel was larger and more powerful than entire alien fleets, and they were crewed by humans who had spent decades training for this exact scenario. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when you tried to exterminate a species that had been preparing for betrayal since first contact. Dr. Lisa Walker appeared on the transmission next, and her calm scientific manner made her revelations even more terrifying for alien viewers. As the architect of humanity's deception, she had spent 20 years creating false intelligence and misdirection that led the galaxy to completely underestimate human capabilities. Every piece of information the aliens thought they knew about humanity had been carefully crafted lies. "We learned from Earth's history that when facing extinction, you do not just fight back," she explained as charts and graphs showed the scope of human preparation. "You ensure that your enemy can never threaten you again." The galaxy wanted to see what humans were capable of, and now you will have a complete demonstration. The first phase of humanity's response involved the activation of sleeper agents, who had been infiltrated into alien societies for decades. Agent Mike Thompson had built a network that stretched across the galaxy using humans who appeared to be simple trader scientists and diplomats. When the signal was given, these agents revealed their true purpose and began dismantling alien civilization from within. Supply lines that had operated smoothly for centuries suddenly collapsed as human saboteurs destroyed key infrastructure. Communication networks went dark as hidden programs activated in systems that aliens thought were secure. The very infrastructure of galactic civilization, which humanity had helped build and maintain, while seeking membership, became a weapon turned against its creators. Financial markets across the galaxy crashed simultaneously as hidden algorithms, controlled by human agents, activated on the same day. Trade networks that connected thousands of worlds suddenly stopped functioning as humanity revealed they had been secretly controlling vast portions of the galactic economy. Entire species found themselves facing economic collapse as the full scope of human integration into their society became clear. Senator Vexhai watched the destruction of galactic civilization from his crystal tower on the Senate station and finally understood the magnitude of the mistake they had made. The species they had sought to contain had not just been preparing for war, but had been positioning themselves to inherit the galaxy. When their enemies inevitably revealed their true intentions, the alien extinction fleet found themselves surrounded by human forces that appeared from every direction at once. Admiral Kethver stared at his tactical display and saw his ancient empire's greatest nightmare coming true. His ships were outnumbered, outgunned, and completely cut off from any hope of reinforcement or escape. "They knew," he whispered to himself, as human vessels closed in around his flagship. They knew exactly what we would do, and they prepared for every possibility. We did not just fail to contain them, we gave them the excuse they needed to take everything. The surrender negotiations began within hours as alien commanders realized that continuing to fight would only result in the complete destruction of their forces. But humanity was not interested in simple military victory. They wanted to ensure that the threat of galactic betrayal could never happen again. Admiral Ben Rodriguez accepted the galaxy's surrender aboard the human flagship Retribution, while representatives from over 100 species knelt before him in defeat. The ceremony was broadcast throughout the galaxy so that every alien could see the moment when their civilization formally submitted to human authority. "You called us a threat to galactic peace, and you were completely correct," Rodriguez announced to the assembled alien delegates. "We are that threat, and we will always be that threat. But we are also your only hope for survival now, because the galaxy you knew is gone forever." The terms of surrender were simple and absolute. The Galactic Senate was dissolved and replaced by the human hegemony, with other species granted limited autonomy within human-controlled space. All military forces would be disbanded except for units serving under human command. Trade and communication would flow through human systems under human oversight. Most importantly, every species that had voted for human extermination would pay reparations for generations to come. The resources of entire star systems would be transferred to human control as payment for the attempt to commit genocide against humanity. The galaxy would rebuild under human guidance, or it would not rebuild at all. President Martinez delivered the final address to the galaxy from the real Earth, which had been revealed in all its glory as the center of humanity's new empire. Behind him in the sky, alien viewers could see massive human ships that served as both protection and reminder of who now controlled their fate. The Galactic Senate called humanity a threat and then tried to exterminate us when we proved them right, he said as images of human-controlled worlds filled screens across the galaxy. But what you failed to understand was that sometimes a threat to peace is exactly what peace needs to survive. The transformation of galactic civilization happened with shocking speed as human administrators took control of systems that had operated unchanged for thousands of years. Alien species that had lived in peaceful stagnation suddenly found themselves facing challenges and opportunities that their ancestors could never have imagined. Some worlds resisted human rule and were quickly reminded of the consequences through demonstrations of overwhelming force. Other species embraced their new reality and discovered that human leadership brought innovation and growth that their old civilization had never achieved. The galaxy was learning to live under the rule of the species they had tried to destroy. Captain Ryan Mitchell now commanded a sector fleet responsible for maintaining order in what had once been the Zephyrian territories. The aliens who had once blockaded human colonies now served under his authority and followed orders given by the species they had once considered too dangerous to exist. The irony was not lost on anyone involved. The galaxy had gotten exactly what it feared most, but discovered that human dominance brought benefits their peaceful civilization had never achieved. Trade flourished under human protection, exploration resumed under human leadership, and conflicts that had simmered for centuries were resolved by human arbitrators who were not afraid to make hard decisions. The final entry in the old Senate archives was written by Senator Vexhyde before his retirement to a comfortable but closely monitored existence on his homeworld. His words would be studied by future historians as the epitaph of one civilization and the birth announcement of another. "We called them a threat to galactic peace, and we were absolutely right," he wrote in his ancient script. "But what we failed to understand was that our peace was built on stagnation and fear, while theirs would be built on strength and growth."